The Planning and Development Committee meeting at 1:01 on May 26th, 21. I don't see a thing on here to add a late item, but I don't know that I want a late item, but I'd like an update on Zapponi Road, if there is anything to update from our last meeting. Go ahead, Gord.
Yeah, can I, and I'm not sure if I can just ask Scott about waiting on Michael Shafoon. Are we going to book a meeting with the engineer? Yeah, so we can, I don't know if we add that to the agenda. I don't know if that's just a quick question.
Just an update.
Yeah. I think we have some direction that yeah, I can share with you guys.
Not there yet.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's just get you to speak to that when you're when we go through the current applications. So approval of the agenda, recommendation that the Planning and Development Committee meeting agenda for May the 22nd be approved as amended. Good, go Gord. Thank you. Adoption of the minutes, approval of the minutes, recommendation that the minutes of the Planning Development Committee meeting held on May the 12th be adopted. Deb. Favor. Good to go. Development services update application. You got Scott.
Here we have the current applications. I don't think we've received any new ones since our last meeting.
One new one.
Which is the new one?
Shoe swap. It's a development permit.
Yeah, so we did get a new development permit. We just got it this week. We haven't had a chance to add it yet, but yeah, if anybody has any questions about any of them in particular.
I don't have any questions about these in particular, but could you just give us any insight to Zapponi Road? Has staff had any discussions with anybody about that yet?
We haven't, so I think the next step would be us investigating what to do with the road. Is want to give it
The road was.
Yeah, so we'd have to bring that to council. They'd have to pass a bylaw to close the road. We'd have to advertise it, and then we could kind of go forward with the land title thing to consolidate with the adjacent lots. So.
But the last meeting, staff was kind of directed to dig into how we lost half the road.
Oh, you mean the bylaw enforcement side of it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, why did we lose 50% of the road to start with? So I think Evan was handling that.
Okay. And I haven't heard anything on that, so.
Okay. I just want to make a note to that because there's not much point in closing the road and doing this other side of it without knowing what the recourse is going to be on the loss of the road that we own.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? No? Okay. Old Town Road RV rezoning, Gary Tebbett. Is Gary on?
Don't see Gary on right now. But yeah, we can get started without him. So they haven't submitted an application yet. They're still working on it. Properties out at Old Town, as you can see. This is an air photo, ortho photo, and it's for this area at the southeast side of the property, and it's the largest part of the property right now. Proposals for 350 strata units for an RV resort. So again, it's the blue area. This map is split zoned, like the entire property is all one lot at this time, and it's split zoned with large holdings and RR1, which is single family dwelling. So it's rezoning would be required to move forward with 350 strata lots. That blue section is 21.36 hectares in size, so it's a property. And it would also include the purple area just to the north of that as well, across Old Town Road. A lot of moving parts on this one. The other purple or the pinkish color that's connected to the blue area is also included in this drawing, as you can see where the road is. So there's some talk of including that area as maybe a public park. This road, which I don't believe is dedicated yet, making that a public amenity as well. And then also considering parks and trail access throughout the whole property for the public. So the public could get, across the Eagle River. At one time, there's a proposal for a pedestrian bridge across the Eagle River there. So those are all being considered as part of the amenities. At the time of subdivision, 5% of parkland would be required. So we would be expecting that contribution. What it's going to look like on the ground, we're not sure. There'd be staff accommodation, a clubhouse, washrooms. The idea would be park models or RVs. It's an exciting project. And then other phases, we've had talks about the other phases of the project. This is kind of the first one to get it going. And I think this is an opportunity for this group to give advice to the applicants. I don't see them online now, but if you have any questions, we can try to answer them. And then if you have any advice or any gut feelings or any opinions, then we can bring those back to the applicants.
Comments, Gord?
Yeah, I texted Gary not too long ago, about an hour ago, but I didn't hear from him. So we wanted to ask him, I know you say that it's supposed to be a strata RV park. It would be nice to see some day rentals. I don't know if maybe they could section it off and have one parcel, some kind of day rentals or for people to come in. But I mean, it would be, I don't know if you remember back in the 80s when we had almost 1,100 campsites in Mare Lake and Sycamoose. And we had 3 grocery stores and there was just people coming and going all the time. I mean, you'd still get this even if it was stratified, but it would have huge benefits for the expansion of Twin Acres Marina for private moorage boats. And it would be great for Old Town Bay and Sycamoose, I think.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's very positive. I think that that something like this is a great thing. I don't think it has to be single family in that area. A question across the road. There's lots across the road from it that are, I believe, elevated lots. Would that location, Scott, is that part of it? Would that be RV or would that be single family?
I understand the proposal now is RV lots.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's I think I agree. I think it would be nice to have some sort of short-term rentals there so that you can get some people in camping. Just so that it's not sitting there for a long time. So, but yeah, no, I think I'm definitely in support of it. I think it's really good. It's good location for it.
Would this be, what I think Silver Sands is that you only have a limited number of days you could use it, or where you shut down infrastructure, water and sewer so much of the year?
I don't know. That's
80 days.
Yeah.
you know that, Scott?
I know with Silver Sands, it's specific to the zone. And I think they can use it throughout the winter months, but not as a permanent home. And then they're limited to the number of days or this one we haven't really got into that kind of detail yet, but they'd have water and sewer service, municipal services. It makes the most sense to make the services available year round.
Yeah.
And you have to be careful when people are staying in RVs that aren't meant to be stayed in over the winter, because they bring in a heater that isn't meant to be in an enclosed area and trouble happens. But I think, yeah, open to the idea of being flexible.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking, like obviously Greg Darrow had been applying for the winter camping thing on, I guess, east of here and that. And so to me, it's just, if it's too restrictive, then you get into, the peak usage, and then it's not available in the winter when it could obviously also be a benefit too, so.
Just my personal comments. I think it should be serviced for 12 months of the year usage. I think that a minimum of 10%, more likely 15% of those lots should be for day camping. Personally, it would have to come to council to get voted on, but we've been trying to regain a campground that's open to the public in town here since we've been elected and before. And because of ALR land, and we've been trying with Bryant Laborie, the community spent, we got a grant for 100,000, and I think there's some staff time and that in there. So I don't know exactly what the cost is, and we still don't have a campground. I don't know what's going to happen at 2 miles to the south. That deal is not cemented either. So, and I don't think that that's a big ask, because that hillside that they have their campsites on, I think there looks like there's about 45 or 50 of them up there. That was already zoned R1, and we're going to downplay it.
Okay.
So if we're going to downgrade it, they're going to give something back. That's just my personal opinion. So if they're asking for things that would be almost mandatory to get this to go through, that would definitely be one of them, that there's daily or weekly, not monthly or yearly leases. Daily, weekly. It's kind of like the campgrounds do. You can come and you can stay for 2 weeks, but then you got to move on. So, and asking for 10% of 350, that's only 35 lots. And I'm going to guess this is for sale. This is exactly what Greg Darrell did over at Cottonwood. Come in there, put a strat in, sold the lots off. I don't even, there's not measurements to tell me how big those lots are. I know there's a minimum square foot size. I can't make this large enough to read any of that's fine print on there. So it just goes blurry when you expand it out. So like I said, I'm not against it, but there needs to be some serious conditions, because when you give up that residential area, which was already zoned, that's on the hillside, and you turn that into RV lots for sale, that's too much of a loss. The tax base on it is not. So if we're going to get a benefit out of it, it should be camping, like daily or weekly.
Yeah.
Just my personal opinion. Gord?
Yeah, I can't speak on behalf of that. And that's why I called Gary to find out if he was going to have any weekly or daily site rentals. But he did mention to me, Scott, the uphill side. These plans are from Greg Darrell, and the uphill side, he did mention they thought they'd keep that for homes.
Okay.
So there was a little bit of playing to do here. So yeah, hopefully we'll be able to get the application in soon.
But it still doesn't matter personally. As far as I can see on the new zoning map, this doesn't even have a zone yet. It's blank. So it's not a CDZ, it's nothing. It doesn't have a zone at all, that whole piece of property. And so if you're going to allow this strata resort for RVs to be in there, then it has to be that they have camping in there, whether they get the hillside or not. Somewhere in there, they have to have 10% of their units that are going to be daily rentals. I mean, they do that in the States in lots of those RV parks down there. The people bought the thing, they built a house on it, they put a park model on it, and then there's 4 or 5 spots that are for camping, so.
So if
Go ahead, right?
Go ahead, Scott.
gonna say just in back. If you look on this map, this was one of the ones proposals back in 2014 maybe. So it had the on the uphill side, it had the residential, then it had that other lot, that kind of purplish colored one. And I mean, if the community wants a campground, maybe it would make sense to take that bit as parkland, and then the community operates the campground separately from the rest of the RVs in strata.
Whatever works, as long as there's a public campground of some sort out there.
Okay.
And that would make sense because then you have access to the water too, if it was that, what's called lot number 5. Go ahead.
I think a really positive part is if it happens, is the bridge across into the nature park. If that gets connected and there's access into there and along the beach side, that's a massive benefit for the town. And it's for people to be able to walk from that side and get into Old Town Bay. And I think that's huge for this. So I think if they're willing to do that, that's something. It's a really big step. So
Well, staffing housing too. I like the sound of that too, so.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be good to see something out there. I mean, I was out there in 2002 when it kind of got started, trekked around out there, and then they carved in the roads and it all went south. But that was 2008. So we're 20 years later and something might happen, which would be great.
Yeah.
But like I said, I'm not opposed against the RV resort type thing with I've stayed in them in the States when we've gone to south down there, and they have houses and they have camping and it's a mix, right? Basically the same pad for the guy with the 5th wheel or the trailer is for the guy that put his park model on it. So, and they have the same thing with residential area like that purple area up above it. So it's a doable thing. It'd be a great thing for the community. That land out there had a lot of issues with elevation as well, so. Any other comments? Well, it's too bad that Gary Tibbet was on the line here to answer anything, but I'm assuming staff will have a discussion. Okay. So B, 806 Trans-Canada rezoning Best Western. Interesting project. It's going to be, as far as I can figure, kind of apartment style for, I'm not understanding how it's subsidized rental or how he got that.
This is one we've received a application for rezoning and a development permit. It's for the property next door to the existing Best Western, kind of behind Tim Hortons. On the screen now is a site plan. I believe that Bernd Hermansky and Prankash are on the line as well. So Bernd is the agent and Prankash is the owner. But yeah, it's for a 40-unit residential complex, commercial on the bottom floor, and then 6 stories of residential above. Right now it's C2 highway commercial. We're proposing a new zone, C2A highway commercial residential. There's a couple different zones, waterfront zone and the town center zone that have the, C4A. And then you have the residential uses, so it'd be similar to that type of zone. But yeah, here on the screen, you can see the layout. The building is outlined there. Here you can see the existing hotel and the commercial next door, and then the restaurant. And then this is what the second floor would like. I believe all the floors are the same. The second floor might be the only one with a 3-bedroom unit. But yeah, the idea is to provide rental accommodation. I understand that part of it is provide staff accommodation, but up for rentals for people to rent, either people who are working in town or long-term rentals where someone could rent it for like a season. Then here's another drawing just showing the south face. You can see the Tim Hortons and then the scale of the building next to the Tim Hortons. And again, we do have 2 people on the line if you have any questions.
I'm going to make a couple of comments because I was there, and these would be serious questions. For that many units plus the hotel that he has there, he's going to move some of the parking over towards Smucks. I'm not knowing that he's getting enough parking to meet what he needs for residents. That's the first comment. Second comment is how are they going to address the idea that they're going to use the Tim Hortons fire lane as access to their parking on that south side of the building? Because I went over there and I'm sitting there looking at the side of the building and they're burying the other one up. All those cedar trees got to come out. And the only way you're going to get into a parking stall is through the Tim Hortons, which is lined up in the morning around the front of the Tim Hortons building. So I'm not really seeing how they're going to, and I don't know what the rules are exactly, whether the owner to the other guy can allow him that access or whether it would be allowed through the district zoning bylaws and he comes in for his development permit. So the parking is the single biggest issue and access to it. I see. It's a great idea. We need lower cost rental units for people in town and staffing. But you have to address the parking, and that corner, Rama right now is, I've seen it backed up, that 7-Eleven and the Tim Hortons there, we suggested some way into 7-Eleven was in off of Rama and then out the other way, not come around back onto Rama, because I've sat there and had coffee and watched the traffic backed up halfway around 7-Eleven and you can't get out of Tim Hortons except that you go out on the highway exit there, which is going to close at some time in the future. So if they can address those parking issues, or has anybody else got any comments about it?
Oh, well, I think there is the parking. That's definitely a big thing. And I thought the same thing about that fire lane and then turning from the fire lane into the front of the commercial building. There's a restaurant there. So there's going to be, people need to park there. And then just the congestion of the traffic in and around that area. It looks like a lot is going on there. And I'm for economic development. I don't want it's hard to sort of say anything negative about, more rental spaces and more economic development. But that is the thing that it looks like to me. I've seen that parking lot in the wintertime where there's sled trucks and trailers, and the thing is completely full in the wind, and that's in the wintertime. So I don't totally get that, how it's all going to work, because, once it's full, then people start to go down Rama and start parking in front of other people's properties. Maybe they sneak over to Tim Hortons. They go over to the gas station, and that seems like an issue, but maybe that's my only concern as well. So
Thank you. This is Pankaj Bhavnani. I really appreciate the time today. Bernd can talk some of the technicals. Absolutely, both the things we have acknowledged and realized. In terms of you are absolutely bang on. This is stemming from I am personally unable to attract good staff, right? To and let alone find any accommodation for anybody. So the idea really is not to do high end as well as not low end, right? It's affordable for people that need to move to town or want to move to town for work and all of that. We have a lot of excess land in the back. We will have to figure out with your help on how best to provide access, whether it's around it or from the front by chopping down the trees, without disrupting other businesses and what makes sense, right? Bernd, please share your thoughts. You're on mute, Bernd. You need to unmute.
Oh,
Go
there we
ahead.
go. Yes, hi, thank you. So the parking that we've shown on this site plan, there is a parking calculation that I don't see on the screen right now, or do I? Let's see. I move that. No, if you look at our site plan that we submitted, we actually have a parking calculation, and we are using the bylaw mandated numbers for the hotel function, the motel function. And for the apartment block, your bylaw seems to ask for, if I'm reading it correctly, 2 stalls per unit. For this kind of housing, we're proposing that in the CD zone that would be written for this, that we would provide 1.5 parking stalls per unit, because we feel that for the kind of tenants that Pankaj is hoping to accommodate here, that it's very unlikely that they would own, that every apartment would own 2 vehicles. Some certainly might. So at 1.5 per unit, that's basically 60 for the apartments. And then we've used the normal allocation for the commercial space on the ground floor, plus the requirements for the existing hotel. And that's the number that we're currently showing there in total. And you can see that we're providing some of that parking around the back of the boomerang shaped motel wing there. And as Pankaj mentioned, I mean, there's a lot of land back there that we're not covering with asphalt yet. We certainly don't want to cover more than we need to. But we have room to provide more stalls if the municipality deemed that that was the right thing to do. As far as the access goes, I mean, can we realistically count on the shared fire lane that right now straddles the property line? So half is on our property and half is on the Tim Hortons. And there is a reciprocal agreement to use it as a fire lane. So I think we have some right to expect to gain some access there. Same with the highway access west of Tim Hortons, that's shown there as being 2 ways in and out. We also, though, have off Rama Road, we have the current access through the hotel property, so which is owned, of course, by Pankaj as well. So there are basically 3 ways that you can access the new parking that we're showing at the west end of the property. Another thing that's not shown here that I should quickly mention is that there would be a plan to subdivide the parcel to allow the financing to work for this new proposal. And we haven't shown you on this plan exactly where the new property boundary would be, partly because we're still working on that with a surveyor to try to figure out what the best and legal subdivision might look like. I think I also understand from Scott that this will be referred to the Ministry of Transportation and Highways, and that they may have some opinions on these 3 possible access points. And we do understand that we need the blessing from them. And I guess we'd like to hear your concerns and theirs before maybe having to fine tune these access points or come up with some other kind of parking arrangement that might address any concerns you might have. So we think the 3 access points should probably suffice, that at all times, at least one of the 3 would be available to the tenants. And in terms of sheer numbers, we've shown what we think is a responsible number. If you decreed that there should be more, we have room for more. We just don't want to pave all the green area.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was, like assuming we can get the access points and parking all resolved. I was just gonna say personally, I really like the synergies of the idea of the hotel, staffing accommodation, short-term, long-term rentals, and then doing some commercial around that to support the development there. I like all those things about it. So I think, it's really about fine tuning some of the issues. So.
Gord?
To the chair. Yeah, thank you, Bernard and Pankish. Just one thing on the parking with all the snowmobile trailers you have in the wintertime. I think it's time has come when the snowmobile clubs talked about it for quite some time with the RCMP about trying to turn Owlhead parking lot into a secured compound in the evening and maybe night watchmen there in the evening so that sledders could leave their trailers on site and being, looked after at nighttime. So that might help alleviate some of the problems on that end. The other thing too is the accommodations. I just wanted to confirm, these are going to be rental units. Are you going to manage them yourself or you have a management company manage them or they're not going to be stratified though? Is that correct?
No, that is correct. No, I'm not planning to stratify or sell them. They will be rental. And of course, yeah, I will figure it out in terms of giving whether like when the time comes on giving it to a management company because I have this type of apartment buildings in Alberta and, a portfolio of around 250 units that, I manage through a company, right? So we would look at, extending the experience, but with local resources, right? I'll be hiring staff and even what I intend to open in the commercial out of those, there's 4 of those that the hotel has need for themselves. So the tenants already exist. The hotel will be the tenant for 4 of the commercial spots already, right? I feel very positive with the demand that comes. We even have not alone the people that want to move and retire and work there, but we even have demand sometimes from our hotel guests that say that, I come here 5 times a year, 6 times a year, it's same cost to them if each time they have to come to a room, bring all their gear, or they sign a 1-year lease and, they have a little place there they can come in whenever they want, right? So all those possibilities are open. And I'm really hoping that we get, the financing and your support to make this happen with the tweaks that make logical sense, right?
No, thank you very much, Pankish. It's a nice plan and looks exciting.
Thank you. And with the snowmobile club, absolutely, I think that will help with the story. And we will not be taking away the rest of the back land in the winter. We will give access to our snowmobilers for, putting their gear and equipment and, we have cameras and everything so they can see from their rooms, from the TV and all of that, right? That'll still stay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, that all sounds really good. Would it make sense to label this new building as long-term rental? Just as I know sometimes rental building can turn into short-term rental if things happen, but I understand exactly what you're trying to do with your staff. You get more staff, and I think that's great. I think it's just it'd be interesting. It'd be a good thing to call it long-term rental.
Totally. Yeah. I'm all for it.
Okay, great.
Any other comments?
No, looks good.
Yeah, it's a nice project and if it's gonna provide some rental, I heard you say that you're talking about rentals for like a sledder could rent that for the year rather than coming and renting for a week at a time or 2 weeks at a time. So kind of when we looked at it and the way it was written up, it was kind of perceived that it was going to be rentals for staff and other staff that might be working elsewhere in town. Is that the case, or do you plan on doing just straight long-term rentals to?
I'm open to whatever will keep it occupied fully with very reasonable rents and good tenants. So absolutely, staff and local staff will get the first priority. And if there's any availability and a Slater wants to have a 12-month lease, absolutely we can look at that. But they always can stay at the hotel whenever they come, right? They have that too, right? So we don't want to affect that business, right? Unnecessarily.
Okay. All right, well then, if our concerns about the park and then you got to deal with MOTI for your access. But right now, as it is, that is a right in, right out. That's all that's there coming onto the Trans-Canada Highway. So, but there are people that try to come in from the highway that are going east and turn in there. And I've watched the RCMP ticket them readily. So I don't think that's going to change. So your access to parking, is that building going to have a convention center in it as well, or is it just?
I am planning. So very, very good question, right? Because we have so much requests sometimes for whether it's meetings, retreats, or weddings, and we are never able to accommodate a big group of people. So my hope is in the commercial, we'll have a convention center as well that could be leveraged not just by the hotel, but anybody else that wants that spot, right?
Okay. And the reason I'm asking is because my laptop or tablet here is acting up. I get the drawing and then I hit the next one and it goes away. So thank you. You done it? You're good? All right. Well, thank you very much. And I think that your project can be answered by staff. I don't, like I said, the parking is our only concern and your way in and out from Rama and the highway.
Thank you. We will work with your staff. We'll work with Scott very carefully and the team to hash that out further. Bernd, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. Just as Pankaj says, we're ready to take the next steps, leading to the rezoning that makes sense. I mean, whether it's some sort of a text amendment in an existing zone that would apply here, like a C2A, or whether it's a CD zone written specifically for this project, certainly your call. We can work with Scott and the team to fill in the blanks in that regard. And then as far as the DP application goes, which we've already made, we understand that typically you may want to see a little more detail on the building exteriors in terms of colors and materials and so on. And I'd like to talk to the planning staff a bit more about the design guidelines that we've seen from you that indicate sort of marine-like themes and so on. Whether there's some other form and character thing that we may want to tweak a little bit. This is more of a massing model than anything else, but could be very close to the finished product as well. So we're hoping to move ahead with that and also follow that up immediately or even concurrently with a subdivision application to allow the logistics of the financing to happen cleanly. Yeah, that's it. We're ready to move ahead. So I'm very happy to hear this kind of support for it.
Okay. All right, then having that, we'll leave it with the staff to come back with their suggestions and report to the council at a later date. Thank you. Next on the agenda, 1129 Riverside rezoning and development permit. Scott, so that the District of Sicamous Planning and Development Committee recommend to District of Sicamous Council approval of bylaw 1004, 2021. So Scott, would you like to?
I think Sarah's going to present this one.
Okay, Sarah, go ahead.
All right. So this application was seen by council on May 12th for first and second reading. And we're preparing for public hearing on the 9th of June and a recommendation for third, pending the outcome of that public hearing. So this is on Riverside Avenue, just off of Main Street. And it's currently zoned C4 waterfront commercial, which is mostly for marine uses.
Want to move ahead?
Yeah, maybe just move ahead one. Okay, so I don't have an image of the proposal because the applicant was preparing some revisions based on council's responses in preparation for the development permit, performing character. So I'm going to let him present that part, but basically, in essence, what they want to do is a multifamily building that's 2-story with garages on the bottom that would be able to accommodate an RV or a boat. And then there would be 3 storage units in the back corner. And the way they've had to design the site layout is sensitive to the fact that it's really long, as well as the easement and covenant area for the property across the road for RV parking. Just so that you guys are aware of that. Is there anything else I should answer before I ask the applicant to maybe give you guys a little more background on this? Good, okay. So if Marco or Cody wants to speak to this, we can give them power to share their screen.
Excellent. Thank you, folks, for allowing us to present here today. We had envisioned following up the draft to council and just kind of speaking to it with some more visuals. I do understand that council had requested that we provide some more visuals of Riverside Avenue and the development of before and after visuals of that. So we've kind of prepared that here today. I'll just share my screen here because I have been given access, which I appreciate. So this is our proposed rezoning and development of 1129 Riverside Avenue. We are proposing 7 upscale two-story units with marine storage at grade, residential on the 2nd story. We also have some additional marine storage on the northwest corner of the lot. We've made sure to really try and create a custom luxury upmarket living accommodations and garage spaces to really try and jazz up the Riverside Avenue as best we can and really try and align with the OCP with some of our material selections as well. The existing lot is located here. This is 1129 Riverside Avenue facing east. Another few different angles facing northwest and southeast. Oh, sorry, northeast and southeast, my apologies. And this is a rendering conceptual of the street face with our development on there. We've got some nice heavy timber brackets, some metal cladding facade, potential retail space on the bottom facing Riverside, accommodation units on and multifamily on the 2nd story with garage access on the main level. We did a bit of a before and after of that same streetscape, looking at that same lot, what it would be like after. And this is what it looks like existing on the left here, and on the right is what we're proposing. We did our best to recreate that conceptually, but we feel it really reflects what we're and the developer who we represent are trying to achieve. I did also, and I'm glad we added this, but we do have our site plan. As Sarah, and we've been working with her, had indicated, there is an easement existing on the lot, which we've worked around to get it to fit best for what we're trying to achieve. Those 7 units here located on the south, as well as some future storage units as well on the north. We have requested a C4A waterfront commercial residential zoning, which more or less suited the usage besides a few different zonings. We've worked with administration to ensure that that was the best suit for what was presented to council. I also did prepare a bit of a walkthrough, and bear with me because I am driving, but I just wanted to kind of highlight the lot and just kind of give you folks a visual. I'm not sure how well it works and if my internet is good for this visual, but just to give you an idea of what we're proposing. Pardon the telephone electrical pole there, but yeah, the visual along the face of the building, we're using some nice stonework, wainscoting, heavy timber beam accents, and supports. Nice open balconies with the bays at the bottom as well. The storage unit is just over in the corner here where we've allowed for 3 additional storage bays in the back entrance here as well, with the required RV easement allotments in this back corner here as well. So I did want to keep it short and sweet to kind of respect your folks' time, but that is our presentation. So I'd like to thank you guys for allowing us to present, and I would welcome any questions that we can handle for you. So.
Cody, as Jeff, the chair, I just have one. Not where in our bylaw or zoning does it suggest what size the commercial space on the lower level should be. So could you tell me how many square feet you are proposing for commercial frontage? And thank you very much for looking at our OCP and adhering to it. That's great.
Awesome. Thank you very much. We had allotted for essentially just because of the limited access and the space that's allowable up against that Riverside Avenue to allow for the width of the building, as well as proper access, parking, and garbage access as well. We have about 1,000 square feet of potential retail space alongside Riverside there. So whether it's marine services or something to kind of complement the usage of the building and the area, that option will be available on that base.
I don't think that I think as a commercial zone on that frontage, you could have a coffee shop, you could have just about anything you want. There's what's in the OCP. So yeah, look forward to it. It looks like a fantastic project. Brian, do you have a comment? Deb,
So Cody, Deb Heap here. I've actually spent a lot of time considering this property and because the visual, you can basically see it from Main Street. So that's always been more of my concern on what it looks like. So really now with your garages, so they're actually facing north onto Main Street? Or is it, yeah. And I just really love to see the fact that you've made them look good because, like when I look at the toy hotels on the north side of 200 Main, we got Daryl to put the cedars up and everything, but it just looks like you're on a back alley, right? And so you've got those 2 empty lots on Main, and I know they won't be empty forever, but I really like the idea of looking at something good from Main Street across to that lot and not something horrible. So thank you.
Brian?
Well, I just, I think it's great. I think you have done a really great job of it, and it's perfect for what we want on Riverside Avenue. As far as the OCP, you're ticking all the boxes. And got to say, you're a bit of a rose between 2 thorns. So I just and it's not an easy property with the easements and everything. So good for you. And I wish you the best of luck.
Cord, any comments?
No, I can't add anything else. It's just a great looking project and we're looking forward to seeing it come to fruition. Thanks, Cody.
Yes, thank you very much. I think this would be a welcome addition to Riverside. It ticks all the boxes, and I think that it, because of that commercial aspect that we put in there, we actually don't have anything in our current zoning bylaw that suggests any square footage size of that commercial area on the front of the building. So this is a great start. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, folks, for your time.
Okay. There's nothing else on this one. It's 10-2, so we're at Titus Road Development Permit, which is the old Waterways property where the tent used to be. Go ahead.
So on the previous one, we did have, this one is going to go to council on June 9th for third reading. So we did have a recommendation that this group pass a resolution either in favor or against it.
For this for the 1129 Riverside.
Right, so we just included in the agenda, a possible resolution that the District of Sicamous Planning and Development Committee recommend to the District of Sicamous Council approval of bylaw number 1004, 2021.
Okay, I need a mover. Push it. All in favor? For the discussion? All in favor? Approved.
Very no brainer.
I look forward to seeing that. That'd be a nice addition. Okay, so Titus Road Development Permit 21-09-DP. The District of Sicamous Planning Development recommend to the District of Sicamous Council approval of development permit number 21-096-DP. Okay, so Scott, please, or Sarah, whoever's the.
This one is Sarah once again.
All right, so this proposal is up at the north end of town on the way out in this small area of industrial zone properties that are basically sandwiched right in the ALR there. So we do have Howard with us today, and he'll be able to kind of walk you through his proposal. But what he is proposing to do is put in a mini storage facility created out of renovated shipping containers. So he's got his first row there that he's working on right now, and that's the row that's along Titus. And then as the business develops, he wants to expand it to have 2 more rows running back to back. So I'm talking about the blue shapes on here. So he's got his fencing up. He's got a couple gates in there. He's proposing to put in some landscape clusters to help screen the property. Main access will be off Titus Road in and out. And it'll be a secure gate access that you have to punch in a code type thing to go in and out. I'm just trying to think what else I have to say here. Sorry. And then the yard area will be finished in gravel. And then the west side there, that's more along, I can't remember the name of that road, Mayor Road.
Mayor.
That's a future expansion area. So he'll either use it as a storage yard, so you might see equipment stored there, or depending on how the mini storage business goes, he'll expand into there over time. So from here, I'll let Howard present his proposal.
Well, and I really didn't prepare anything other than what Sarah's already shown because I have the same drawings, but if there was any questions, if you want to leave it on that. Yeah, as you indicated, I am working on this. I'm trying to do my very best to actually return that site to something that looks okay, because it's been ignored, as you're well aware, for many, many years. So I spend a lot of time picking rocks and picking up garbage. So anywhere that I move on the site, I have my own personal rule to pick up 5 pieces of garbage as I'm walking around and try to clean the site up. And the neighbors that are adjacent to me and Kelly's go-karts and across the tire shop have said, wow, you've really done quite a bit to make this thing look a lot better over time. There is a huge demand for mini storage within the town, that all the facilities are full within town, as well as adjacent facilities in Salmon Arms. So this is an opportunity to create a service that the residents do actually want here. I am doing this in what I consider to be the first class kind of mentality, in that we're providing, motion sensing LED lights on site, shining in toward the lot, as well as full video surveillance. As Sarah indicated, it's going to be code access to get into the lot, code access to get out of the lot as well, to reduce any potential people trying to throw heavy objects to set off the safety pads to open the gate. And really want to provide this service and keep the lot nice and clean and have something that looks really, really good, because this is, as you know, one of the access points where you're coming into town. You can see this as you're leaving town. So I want to make sure this is something that really leaves people with a good impression of what's going on. You know, the fence looks great right now. The site is getting cleaned up. I'm mowing the lawn regularly. I want to make sure I continue that, so that we've got something that looks really good and an opportunity for me to make a living doing something as well.
Comments? Gord?
Yeah, Howard, good work, what you're doing there. We've been out a couple times to see your progress, and it's really looking good out there. And yeah, I like what you're doing. Just one question, you have any plans for that back building at all, or you're gonna just sit on it for a bit, or just curious?
Well, you know, before I acquired this property, the appraisal that came with it indicated there was several pieces of deferred maintenance, and that is an understatement. So what we've done with that building, it's a 30 by 60 cinder block shop. Back in March, I guess it was, or early April, I spent 5 days on the roof of that building, patching the holes to make that thing weatherproof. It will get a new roof eventually, but right now was to make it so that it was, hey, that it's actually holding water. Next thing is some evictions of some local wildlife that have been inhabiting the area, so sealing up all the holes. And as we get some more money rolling in, that will be clad in a metal structure. Like, the cinder blocks are still good, but it looks like hell. So we are going to be cladding that. Next rainy day that we have, I'll be pressure washing the outside just to freshen it up a little bit. I do have a new garage door that faces Titus Road. That's been on order, but unfortunately, due to everything going out of control, it's an 8-week lead time. So that's coming the end of June. So that's been ordered, but yeah, we'll be nice, clean in the immediate future. That is going to be my shop and my personal storage. So I've got a trailer in there right now. And, you know, in the future, I might lease it out, but it's growing on me as a, hey, I kind of like having this. So it's for the foreseeable future, it'll just be for my personal storage of trailers and tools as I'm constructing this lot.
Oh, no, looks good. Thanks very much. Support you 100%. Doing a good job.
Deb, go ahead.
Hi, Howard. This is kind of a goofy question, but that's what I do. So with you getting the secants in, I'm assuming there'll be more like you've already got. So at some point, you're going to want to either paint them all the same color or something. But just wondering about maybe painting them Sycamoose branded colors, since it is such a high profile location.
Yeah, what we can do on the west side of the lot is we can talk about that. The challenge with the secant stuff is this has been a learning experience for me as well. So when we do these, because they're a big tin box, I don't want these to turn into easy bake ovens. So, you know, consulted several people from around North America that have done this already and said, look, you have to go with a light color, because they attract so much heat. So every one of the storage units the can gets spray foamed, you know, 2 inches of insulation on the ceiling. Each bay gets individually vented to control condensation and moisture. It is possible that we could do something, because I do have plans to do some other non-critical, like non-household storage stuff, kind of for the west side of the property. And I wouldn't be opposed to having Sycamoose colors for that.
Anderson?
No, it looks really good. It's, yeah, you've really cleaned up that property. I think with the landscaping that's on the drawing here, it looks like there's lots of landscaping and little garden areas. I think it'll make doing a good job. Nothing else to say. I'm all for it.
If anyone wants to come pick rocks, we got lots of rocks to pick.
And my mom over there.
Howard, this is Jeff, the chair. So I guess the only concern I have is how busy that road gets in the summertime. And so you have the gate there, which is indicated is not on Mayor Road, that's not going to be used. But at some point, you're probably going to want to use it. And so that road there, because of the fruit world, because of the D Dutchman Dairy, and because of Kelly's Go-Karts, like on the weekend, Kelly's Go-Karts, the parking lot next door where the body shop was full. They were on the street. So I can see issues with parking on the front there. So,
Parking for me or for them?
well, access in and out of there, like it's kind of like the last applicant that's talking about the hotel, and Rama is a real busy intersection and it's hard to get in and out of it at best of times. But because of your proximity to that turn onto the highway, which people are actually, I don't know why they have to come out there to go west. They should go west out of the Dutchman and the fruit world and come out at the traffic circle at the traffic light. But they all come out there and want to go west, so the traffic ends up backed up. So that gate onto Mayor Road, that close to the highway, I know you're putting your keypad on the other side on Titus Road.
Yep.
So, but that gate is there. So what is the future intended use for that gate?
Honestly, that was if we end up doing any kind of longer term storage of, boats, RVs, trailers, things like that. Those ones are going to be more long-term contracts. And once to park an RV for the winter, that would be access through me and me alone. I'm not going to allow, that gate is not going to be heavily used. And that's not something that's going to be used heavily in the summer. It's just that when you're putting the fence in, it was one of those, well, how much to add a gate later versus doing it now? So let's bleed a little bit more now so that it's there just in case. And I'm really trying to cover my basis because the whole concept of the storage stuff is unproven. I think it's going to work, but if it doesn't, then there's the option to do something different, like maybe, leasing out the western part of the lot to someone else. Or I could pound a fence that goes north-south at the end of the concrete pad, and I could have I can do something else with that property. But I have little concern about that gate being in heavy use at all. Nothing for the next 5 years, I can assure you.
So in the comments from the engineering technician, he recommended that right now there's no access permit for that gate onto Meyer Road. So he's recommended an access permit. So they can add conditions into that permit at that time.
Okay. All right. And then the other thing that was mentioned in your earlier conversation was about screening. So you have what do you call those fences?
Slats.
No, that type of fence. What do you?
Chain link.
Chain link.
You have a chain link fence, and so it's completely visible what's inside of there. Are you putting in any cedars, or because you just got the shrubs on the one corner, and then you got a couple looks like planters along the way? I think they're planters.
Yeah, I'm trying to create those landscape clusters we want visibility into the lot, because the last thing we want is to create anything where we're, encouraging any kind of nefarious activity. Want to make sure that people can see into the site, want to make sure that the site stays clean. So I'm respecting the town does have a requirement around screening to make sure that we're doing the right thing, but I want to make sure that people can see into what's going on there for security of the site. So it's going to we'll strike a balance to make sure that we've got the right shielding for what the town looks for, as well as having enough access and visibility so that, the contents are secure and that we don't have people prowling around. And I think my biggest concerns around security is actually coming from the agricultural side, which will have surveillance cameras that go up on the east side of the property to make sure that's well covered. I don't know if anyone's going to be cutting through a fence with access directly into the Trans-Canada.
Okay. Any other comments, Sarah?
So this
Go ahead.
one is going to be considered at council tonight. So again, there's a recommendation for I'll just read it out, that the District Sickmoose Planning and Development Committee recommend to the District Sickmoose Council approval of development permit number 21096 DP.
Well, I guess the big question is that you'll have to deal with staff on the screening part of it. That'll be standard anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, we're done. I know Sarah and Scott were out to have a look. It's easier to show, live what we're actually doing. And we had a discussion, and definitely be working with them in consultation where, Sarah had pointed out, look, at the end of Titus Road there, we've got a stop sign that's fairly well set back from Mayor Road to make sure that anything we do from landscaping doesn't obstruct visibility for cars that are entering onto Mayor Road. So yeah, I'll be working with them to make sure that, hey, this is what, we've got planned to make sure it's going to look good. And I really do want this site to look really good. It's one of my focus areas, is to make sure that I don't like building things look like garbage. So I want something I can be proud of and something the town can be proud of.
Okay. Go ahead, Scott.
So that's exactly what council needs to consider at the meeting tonight is, do they want to issue the permit based on the landscaping plan provided? Sarah and I went out there and we think it's reasonable with the landscape clusters, just because he wants to have the visibility. Greening up that area is probably going to improve it a lot. We also talked to Howard about almost the same question that Deb had about like breaking it up with some color. I heard Deb mention the barn quilts. That was another idea we had, getting something like that where you can just hang it so people aren't looking at a continuous blank wall. But and I believe that is in the development permit, that there can't be those continuous blank walls, so we can work with them on that. But yeah, you're right about the screening. It's really as the permit's written, and it's for council to consider. So.
All right, go ahead, Gord.
I'll make that motion to recommend that we approve it for the planning department, or planning committee approves it for tonight's meeting.
Seconded by Deb Heap. All in favor? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I thought that 222 was on here. It is.
Yes.
Okay, so the next one, item E, 222 Temple Street rezoning 20-294 OCP said that the District of Sycamore Planning and Development Committee recommend that District of Sycamore Council approval of bylaw 1002 2021 and bylaw number 1003 2021.
Jeff, I'm gonna step out just for a conflict.
Okay. Okay, so going to handle the intro of this, Sarah.
All right, so this one's been to council for first and second reading. It's going to public hearing tonight, and with a recommendation for third reading, pending the outcome of that public hearing. So this proposal is also from Howard, is to rezone a portion on the right side of the property to R1 and 2, and leave the remainder of the property as R5, which is a multi-family zone. So what he's wanting to do is build his home there. He's moving his family into town, and he'd like to build a house, a single family home on the property, for which a zoning amendment is required.
Any comments, Deb?
Obviously there's a concern that we proceed with the multi-residential at some point. So, like, to me, it's what kind of horse trading can we do to make sure that the multi-residential is proceeding as part of the approval for hiving off that R1, R2.
Gord?
No, I like the idea about the multifamily dwellings. We need more multifamily dwellings. If you lop off a half acre for this development, that leaves you 40-something units, which are very much needed in the community. I know some people had some concerns on the size of the R1 being lopped off, but if you look at the one next door, it's really only about 0.3, 0.3 of a difference. And then there's another piece of property just across the street from R5 it's over half an acre, just next to Temple or Hoban's development there. And the lots in behind there are larger too. So it's not out of the ordinary, the size. So I support it. And I mean, it is going to stay in R5, the multifamily. And I'm hoping the demand's there and he can proceed, as quick as possible. That's my feeling.
This is the chair, Jeff. My biggest concern is that lopping off this R1 is a loss of 10 to 15 units possibly of the R5 zoning. And so, that property has looked like that for 8 or 9 years now. And Howard, I hate to say this, but you want to build a nice house on there, I want to see the R5 developed. And so personally, I would suggest that subdivision is possible when there's a development permit applied for the R5 to build it out. So I know that's asking a lot, but we need affordable housing in this community. And it seems like we give in to getting people what they want with the commitment that they might give back something in the future. And I'm just going to ask staff if it's a way that you can word this, that subdivision is based on that R5 development. Go ahead, Scott.
So Howard has a subdivision application in now, and he's received his PLR, so his preliminary layout approval. He can subdivide it as R5. He doesn't need to rezone it to subdivide it. There probably isn't a tool we could use to change that. Like, the subdivision kind of is off the table at this point. Council can make a deal any way they think they can make a deal. But you'd have to address it at the rezoning stage. You couldn't kind of put it off to the next stage. And I think you start going down a slippery legal slope when you start kind of going outside the box, but it is possible.
I mean, that's what the application is for, rezoning.
Yeah, but the subdivision, Howard has the conditions he has to meet. Rezoning is not one of those conditions. He can proceed with the subdivision regardless of rezoning or not.
So we can do the subdivision, create that lot, but it remains R5.
You could do that. Yeah.
Well, let's be clear. I do want to do the multifamily, but I do want to live here. I want a house for my wife and my family that we can come here. So I understand that you think that it may be a concession, but it's not. And we keep coming back to the loss of the density, but the density there is 0 today. There's nothing there. So I want to move ahead with this. I really do. And I've told council before, my primary goal with this particular site is I like having the space in a yard. That's one of the reasons we're out here in the great outdoors in Sycamoose, is to be able to have that kind of space in the yard. So I do want, to have the same or similar sized lot to the one right next door to me, so that I can have some nice gardens of my own in the back. And I do want to continue with the development because I do have a lot of money tied up in this property. So it's would be counter to any logic to think that I'd want to sit on that. I do want to do the development, but I want to do that after I build my house.
Personally, this is the chair, Jeff. Personally, that's where we've done this before and that development has never happened.
Yeah,
So we
not with
slice
me,
off the
Jeff,
piece.
but not with me.
Yeah, but there's been a number of them. I'm sorry, it's just a history in Sycamoose that you can drive around this community and look at them. They exist everywhere. There's the cement thing at the end of Riverside. You can go out to 2 Mile. You can go to Old Town Bay. Lots of people talked about doing lots of things and they got what they wanted out of the deal and then nothing ever materialized. So when we cut off this, we're giving up 10 to 15 R5 units. And there's no guarantee that lot 1 will ever be developed. You could sell it. I'm just saying there's no way. And that's what I was asking staff, if there was a way that we could have it that you had a commitment to actually doing something on that to get that severed out. And apparently it's not possible.
Yeah,
So,
I do want to do something there. Like I really do, but I really want to build my house first. We have to do things in sequence. And to say they come up with, millions of dollars of financing for an R5 development before I've got my house, that's just not realistic. I've got a whole bunch of balls in the air and I have to get some of these things working, right? Like as we saw in the last one, the storage lot is a big focus of the time right now.
Go ahead, Sarah.
So one of the early options that was presented to council in the information reports, I shouldn't say council, to the committee of the whole, was that, council could choose of its own volition to amend the R5 zoning to increase the permitted density. So if a principal concern is the loss of 10 to 15 units, you could choose to increase the density on that lot, but it could also create the need to come back for additional approvals, because then you increase density, you may need to increase height, you start having issues with provision of parking and open space, like amenity space, outdoor space. So yeah, anyway, regardless, council has the option to increase the density on that remainder if it chooses to.
Yeah, still the issue is that slice off a piece, build a house, maybe never see the R5 development. Go ahead, Gord.
Yeah, Jeff, I understand where you're coming from, but I don't know if you've ever been a developer, but it's, you have to have really deep pockets even for 40 units. $1 million doesn't even it doesn't even get you started. But, we just heard of 42 unit or 45 units going into the Best Western. We have Trouton's property over there. We've got Greg Darrow's property. We got the one on Riverside. I know it's maybe more high-end units, but it's coming, and timing is everything. And I know, you got to walk before you can run, but I support this 100% because this is our third development proposal on this property. And if we shot down the RV site, and yet we're talking about doing RVs over on the other side of Riverside. So it's sure we're losing 15 units, but we just picked up 45 units today at Best Western. So I support it. We have to start getting these empty lots in town starting to fill up. And this is one way, and we're only losing 15 units. We're not losing anything because we don't have anything. So that's my point.
Yeah, I'd really like to see the R5 developed. So, but sounds like Howard's committed. I don't know if there's any kind of, even if you don't make a condition that it precedes the house, if you can put any kind of condition on it in terms of development within a certain time period or.
Yeah, that's a staff question, not.
Yeah.
Yeah, if anyone that's on the call has a few $1 million they can lend me, sure.
I think Jeff does.
Jeff, let's chat after.
I'd have to excuse myself from the meeting.
Nobody left.
I really do, guys. I'm honest and sincere, and those who have had a chance to deal with me know that I speak my mind, and when I say I'm going to do something, I do it. I'm trying to demonstrate with the tightest property. Like, look, I'm very committed to making sure that everything looks right and everything gets done correctly. And I'm telling you that I will be going down the R5 development. We will get that done because this is my money tied up there. I need that money back eventually. So all I want to do is build a house for myself, my wife, and my family so we can get here full time. My wife's already applied for a BC teaching certificate. She's going to come here and teach, but we have to have a place to do that first. So everything has to happen in sequence. And the first thing for us is to do that, subdivision, build the house, and then we tackle the R5 stuff in partnership with someone who actually knows what they're doing and can do a really good job. Because the last thing I want is any kind of low end stuff, because that's my neighbor, right? So it's going to be something that's going to meet all of the criteria for the town in terms of the, affordability and accessibility to make sure that we've got something that's a premium product, because that's my next door neighbors.
All right, so I'm going to, any more comments? Call the question. All in favor?
You need a mover and a seconder.
Already got that. All in favor?
All in favor?
Okay. You want to ask Brian to come back in? It's passed.
2 or 3 in favor?
3.
3. All right.
Don't raise your hands.
All right.
Devin,
Okay, F, housing strategy memo.
So Gary Tibbet, he did show up. He didn't know it was a Zoom meeting, so he showed up in person. So that was our first item on the agenda.
Okay.
Want to go?
Wanna
it, or
You want to go back to that because these other ones here are, we could deal with them or not, so. The memo on the housing society, so that's just for a grant, that's more information, and the Broom Bridge urban design concept, we've seen that a few times.
and Jeff, I think it would be great for Gary just to do a quick presentation to us and
We could ask the questions, so I'm gonna revert back to the Old Town RV rezoning. Gary, you have the floor, go ahead.
I have the other drawing as well that I can share with they've received the drawings as well. Sure, I've got the right ones here.
Probably don't, but be a good indication of today's to date. What I do have a plan and I'll email it to you. I had to get permission late last night to be able to circulate it because it's from a person that we're negotiating or a group we're negotiating a sale of what shows as blue on the master plan, which is 52 acres at Old Town Bay. So because of the history and the complexity of this particular development for the last 12 years, we made a commitment with district, was that probably a month ago, Scott? That we would steer through the district any applications. We've got 2 different parties now that have indicated that they're going to come forward with an offer on this particular piece of property, both wanting to do the same eventual outcome, which is somewhere between 350 and 400 strata RV lots that they would sell to final users who would want to park their RVs there, so on and so forth. The park would be done so there would be nicely amenitied, there would be swimming pools and a clubhouse and different things like that. And so I'm actually just about ready to submit a subdivision application and a rezoning application for this parcel. And in addition to that, we're also next week in meetings for what would be lots 1 and 2. So if you look where current boat launch is, and you go to the left on the diagram, there's 2 lots there. They would be potentially consolidated. We're dealing with a major developer out of Vancouver who's interested in coming forward with a 200-unit waterfront condo development. So there's a big meeting next week where there's been some preliminary visionary plans and things prepared that we're reviewing with them. The scenario with the RV people, I've asked all of them because we're representing them, but they're actually eventually the applicant. That for all of you that are familiar with the history of this project, it's involved DFO, it's involved BC Archaeological Branch, it's involved First Nations, it's involved criminal charges, it's involved just about anything you could anticipate. And so to turn any unknowing candidate loose on that, it's just not a good program, and it's not fair to the district either. So unfortunately, I've asked to be fired a couple of times. They haven't fired me yet. I could probably pick my game up on that, but I actually like the guys that own this place. We're going to submit those applications. And we've done our research, and these are very, very real candidates. We think the product's good. we're internally going to hold our own criteria outside of what you do, because it's a significant piece of property in a very significant location. And we want to make sure that the final product here is something that's complementary to Old Town Bay and doesn't undermine it in any way, shape, or form. Other than that,
So before your arrival, when we discussed this, there was 3 or 4 comments that were made that only you could answer or
Sure.
whenever they come in. So the first one in the blue is what's being sold. The kind of purpley one up behind that was previously kind of zoned R1. And it's showing on this that it would be RV sites. Is that correct?
well, the lighter blue is what we're showing as the RV site. The darker blue up above still remains
Residential.
as residential.
Okay, because in this drawing that we have, that's in this attachment, it's showing that as RV lot.
Let me just look one more time and make sure I didn't leave the other drawing, because the drawing that I have, the entire light blue site is the only property that's been involved.
Yeah.
Because that drawing, we wouldn't accept that ourselves.
Okay,
So
so,
I'll tell you the reasons why. Firstly, it's too invasive on the site where Road C comes down where the pump station is, the lift station. You know, in your DCC bylaw, there's a future project there to add public washrooms. We don't like that they have an access at that location. We foresee a problem with congestion. I mean, that's a dead end road with a cul-de-sac when you've got public washrooms and how many people are going to be wanting to access the beach. And then all of this seasonal RV traffic. So we want the accesses to come off the main road coming into the development.
okay,
If you look at our master plan, we have, I think we refer to it as lot 5. We consider that as potentially a transition
okay,
parcel that would between, you know, where the main waterfront and the higher density type of product will be eventually developed and the RV.
so that was to the next point that we had kind of discussed. One of the things we were looking for, the district has tried for 15 years to get a overnight or weekly campground. And, you know, when you go to the States, you can go to facilities like this. I've stayed in them in Arizona and Tucson but they also have daily and weekly or monthly campsites available. Will this offer any of that? Because the community really needs that. We spent a lot of money trying to get a site not far from that. And it's ALR land and it's been an uphill battle. So it's an ask. If it's possible, is there any appetite to have through your management or whoever's going to manage it to actually have some daily rental sites in there?
How I understand these things are normally done. So this obviously with 350 to 400 Bearland Strata lots is not going to be absorbed in one summer. So how I understand what a lot of people do is they develop these things in phases, and the lots that are unsold are exactly that until they're sold. I'm not sure what the applicant's plans are. I have heard comments related to part of it being for that use. I know that the existing recreational residential bylaw we're going to ask for some amendments relative to this development. But that's, you know, what we're looking at is doing the subdivision and the rezoning application, and then the applicant doing the development permit application. And if we end up in an actual purchase agreement within the next week, which is what we anticipate, it will be a collaborative effort. And we will come forward and have dialogue and all of the appropriate discussions accordingly.
So Gary, do you personally, if you're involved in this, do you have an appetite for overnight or weekly camping that like this community used to have 1,300 sites?
Well, if I was involved in somebody that was purchasing a lot here and I was going to use it seasonally, but not have something parked on it full time. I'd probably like the opportunity that a management group
To rent it.
can create revenue on daily and weekly rentals. And I can see that being something that's viable and very realistic. You know, I think in these things, the problem with mixing the longer term seasonal user with the overnight use is, you know, one's there for quiet contemplation and the other's to party. So there are those issues in how a person manages that through strata or rules and regulations and things, I think is going to have to be carefully considered.
Well, in places that I stayed in, quite a few of the States, they actually had an area. So you would take one of your little loops in there, and that would be just where that happened. That wouldn't be, you wouldn't scatter them throughout usually. And so it's just an ask. Like, if we don't ask now, it may not get asked, and then it will never happen. So if it could be a consideration moving forward with your development plan, if you're aware of it and you mention it, if you come back, that's a carrot that gets you points on our side.
I'll definitely pay that forward to both of the applicant groups.
Great.
I mean, fundamentally, it makes sense. And if it makes sense, there's some financial rationale to it that's in everybody's best interest, and those are usually drivers in the decision process. We anticipate in our side of it of selling the property that it's probably going to be subdivided and sold in 3 different phases.
Okay.
Our research says that Cottonwood sold a little over 100 sites last year. So we think the absorption of this project is 3 to 5 years.
Scott, you mentioned about the commitment of park and the possibility of that pink strip being.
Right. So yeah, parkland dedication will be required. And then, yeah, if there is that, you know, that public component on this road, yeah, and I just floated this idea to council, that council would use that parkland dedication to put camping on this property. And I thought it could tie in well with the public component of the already existing road. But also, we'd also talked about, you know, the importance of this as well, and then trails on the property as a component as well.
So thinking of it as an overall planned comprehensive development, and if you could vision down the road, which is hard, it's 12 years down the road and it's
Still there.
accomplished. What we had always had as previous dialogue with previous administrations was that, and I actually have a plan I'll leave with you of a previous version, was an integrated trail system.
Yeah.
The part of the property that was developed, where it's the P Loop and Kylo's Marina and Twin Acres Marina, there were some things through the DFO process there earlier where there was a requirement now in the EA, which I brought a digital copy of all of those reports for you today, that we have to do some compensation back as parkland. So we were looking at doing that on the other side of the Eagle River, where it's pink on the right-hand corner. If you take, you know, park dedications or cash in lieu of, you end up with a really disjointed, unplanned outcome at the end of the day on 200 and some acres of developable land. We think that having the suspension bridge and having a pedestrian access to the downtown of Sicamous, all tied in and integrated with the linear trail path system, is a very substantially important amenity to the development overall. We also identify exactly what you're identifying, Scott, that in the initial planning or envisioning of this project, which was done 12 or 14 years ago by Acoustics in Vancouver, there's a shortage of parking.
Serious.
For the public.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're not sure. So if you don't mind, I'll just walk over and just bring a couple of things up.
Where's the stick?
There's some, what we identified is future identifiable parcels for development down the road. And there's 3 of them. There's these 2 and this one. The reason you can see here, there's an outline which basically everybody realizes is fairly substantial rock outcropping. Everybody that we're talking with would be utilizing blasting and these materials to bring the appropriate structural fill into this area. And then that would create these as being more developable. One of the things we identified here is the future commercial zoning that would accommodate dry bulk storage. Because if you have 350 or 400 residents in here seasonally, there's going to be a requirement for some things like that. There's a possibility in this area that something could be encompassed as some additional parking. Right now, Twin Acres is using some of this property to accommodate just their current parking requirement, with 50% of the marina actually being built. The water lot license and the approval they have will allow them to double that. I think this is where the existing end of the marina is now.
Oh, it's all the way out.
Is it all the way out? But I don't think they have all of the inserts in yet.
No, they don't. They're missing one arm and all the fingers.
So I'm not sure what the final resolution to that overall parking is, but we definitely didn't want to see this be tied to this and all of the congestion that goes with that.
Okay.
And I think, you know, there's some other factors like that's one piece of the entire development that can be sold and developed prior to there being an engineering requirement for a reservoir and a booster station and the debris flow wall. So those three things are somewhere in the neighborhood of between $4 and $6 million. So we're trying to find a way to financially kickstart the project. So the existing infrastructure meets the water, the sewer, the fire flow, all of those needs. I know we had a discussion with engineering that we would do one more test, or the district would, on the fire flow. But the reports and the testing we've done to date verify that we can build single family residential in that area with up to 43 or 4,400 square feet before we would have an issue with fire flow. So if we get into some of the other parcels, there's a whole other level of complexity that happens. And this seems to be, you know, for lack of a better term, sort of the low hanging fruit to get this project moving forward in a market where there's finally some traction and interest and people at the table.
So, Gary, the next comment that was made earlier when you weren't here is how deep will the services be deep enough for 12 months a year use?
Well, that's what we want to request, because the way your bylaw is written is it doesn't allow for a motorhome to be on there for 12 months of the year. The zoning bylaw. So that's one of the things that we wanted to go through in detail with Scott.
So is it your intention to put in deep services?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because like if it ends up with those pads, you could end up putting park models in there like Silver Sands. They're virtually the same size. And so those with deep services, so there's 12 months because it's an ongoing issue with Silver Sands. They keep coming back for a variance for this. They're not actually supposed to be there for 12 months. It's not considered permanent residence. And the other one, they actually blow out all the waters and everything in October and come back about now. So that's no good for the community. The community needs some structures that are available 12 months a year. And then I see that may end up with park models on it, basically, and
You look
affordable housing.
at, you know, camping or RV developments in and around Kelowna, they're occupied 12 months of the year just because of the housing requirements.
Yeah.
For people who are working in the service industry and not have affordable housing. So, I mean, if you were to take something like this and put it into Fino, it would be full.
Yeah.
Of staff and employees.
Yeah.
They can't house in that community. The shortage of somewhere approximately around 400 housing accommodations per season. So, you know, I think there's a whole bunch of things. And so the purpose is to have the dialogue and make this a very collaborative effort. Not just to come and charge in and say, well, this is what we want. That's never been basically who we've been. So, and why we want to lead the process, because that's one parcel of 11 potential parcels.
Yeah.
We're not going to allow one parcel to upset the value or the aesthetic appeal overall of
the rest. And so one last question that was timing on, because part of that development doing anything out there, there was a pedestrian bridge across to that, close to your other piece of property on the other side. Is there a timeline for that at all?
Well, I think basically, if I was purchasing that lot and the DCC contribution to the community was equal to the cost of building the suspension bridge, I would build the suspension bridge in lieu of paying the DCC in order to get the amenity that provides to the community. That's a normal transaction in the world of development.
Okay.
I haven't actually looked at the DCC bylaw to calculate what the number will be. And
Ours are the lowest, so probably won't cover a bridge. But if you want to do the bridge for the DCC, we could work it out.
yeah, because the two projects we were able to get into the DCC budget before, the entire infrastructure of Old Town Bay was designed and engineered for an eventuality of 1,100 units of development. And before the DCC bylaw was revised, that would have been somewhere between $4.5 or $5 million in DCCs. But in the bylaw, there was not one project.
Yeah.
So we did some lobbying and now we have the suspension bridge and the public washrooms included in the DCC bylaw. I was a little surprised, to be honest with you, at the value that was associated to the suspension bridge, because I don't think it'll cost that much to build it. It's pedestrian, right?
That's good.
So I think, you know, a matter of just sort of engineering what would be anticipated at the time and pricing will answer that question. But everybody we talk to sees the value in it.
Yeah.
Significant value in that connection.
Great. Gordon, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Gary. Yeah, just don't forget, we just passed the low-speed vehicle bylaw, so motorized, like the golf carts, almost golf carts. And so, you know, we're now gonna be similar to a golf cart community. So
I've actually never even thought about that.
so make it wide and still low speed, only 30K.
Well, as I say, like moving forward, you know, we're welcoming any good ideas. I mean, neither of the candidates that are at the table to purchase the property or the two guys that currently own it or myself live in Sycamores. So you're the local intelligence on what this market needs and doesn't need. There's a demand for this type of product. Like everywhere I go, this is the type of product that everybody wants. Whether it's from COVID or.
Yeah, I think it's like I said earlier, I think it's in complete support of the proposal. I especially the bridge across, I think is a super positive thing for Sycamoose and people from one side being able to get over there. And then I love what you're saying about the trail system and integrated trail system. It's great. I think just to speak to the whole day camping thing, I really think that the rental pool, just from experience, is maybe not a good option. Like if some of the strata units were put into a rental pool, it's maybe not the best, because then, okay, so year 4 of the strata meeting, they decide, okay, we're not loving this rental thing anymore. If it was a separate and it was somehow controlled by the district in a separate area, I think it would be better for the district, better for you, possibly if I buy a lot, one of those lots and have my RV, and you've got your family there and you want quiet time, and then there's the renters, the short-term renters partying up over there. It's a totally different thing experience. So I think that if there's some way to get another location, possibly have it the district run, I think that's a good opportunity for the town, because we do need that. And the 12-month-a-year thing, I think is a great thing as well. I think it's really positive. this 6 month thing where, you've got people in for part of the summer and then they're gone. It doesn't help the town. And as well, it helps the town. All development does, but it's better if it could be 12 months a year. But I think it's great. And like you say, the low hanging fruit, if that kickstarts things and gets things moving, all for it.
I can remember, but I think our sanitary storage fiberglass tank at the lift station is probably down 15 or 20 feet. So the whole thing was
Yeah.
designed for deep services to gravity to that location. So
Sure.
the ability to do it technically is not a problem.
Yeah.
Part of what both candidates have asked is that we make sure that at the end of the day, the zoning bylaw reflects it can be 12 months. I think it's intelligent from other aspects, you're then basically exempt of being concerned about weather-related maintenance and
Yeah.
freezing and the other disruptions that come and so on and so forth when you try to do the shallow aspect of it.
Go ahead, Gord.
Yeah, just so you know, Gary, the DCCs on the RV lots are $46.15 per lot, so $4,615 per lot.
And 6. Might be able to build a bridge for that.
Depends who's building it. Depends who's building it.
Well, and the point that Gord brought up about we just did this bylaw with the golf carts being able to drive around town. Red's rental already bought one. He's driving around town.
So are you allowing that now?
Yeah.
Okay, that's very interesting.
So it makes it great for that location to get to town because to drive around is a pain. And
Yeah.
even to walk it is a way less walk.
I get
walking
the
around.
suspension bridge should facilitate a golf cart.
Yes.
Okay.
And a person walking, right? So like.
4-lane.
I'm just gonna grab some copies of the previous plan. I did bring that one up that had the linear pathway system. It's just so you have something to look at.
I think we're gonna have to close this down.
Have enough to go around.
I'll just get one bridge design.
Thank you.
Having this plan done is we have a LiDAR survey done of the entire project. If you're not familiar with LiDAR, that's where there's a certain elevation, and if you do it before the snow's fallen, and if you do it after the leaves are off the trees, which is what we did, you get probably the most incredibly accurate topographical survey. And we needed to do that to establish the high water mark and a number of other things. So this map would be good to show you the intent of what we want to accomplish, but it has to be revised so that all of those trails and pathways are in setbacks and not in any of the below the high water mark locations. So we will be revising that and dealing with it once we get into some further dialogue. But I think the linear trail system is a nice asset. And the suspension bridge, and that people can come from the downtown area, the other side of the river, walk out there and enjoy that. When you get up into some of the higher portions of that property, I mean, it's spectacular. The views are amazing.
So that red line down the east side, the one on the edge of your property, Gord.
Yeah, I think there's,
Well, Gord and I keep going out there as part of our spring cleanup and recutting that trail open again. Because that leads just about to where that bridge is proposed to be.
Right.
So it would be a great trail for access for those people out there.
well, we have the trail system goes all the way across the top.
Yeah.
Comes all the way down the creek ravine, all the way along the waterfront. And what we did not want any development to do is to preclude access to the trail. So that's why we want to design it as a part of the overall process, because If we don't do it now while we're in control of all of the property, then we lose the ability to have the proper outcome at the end of the day. So
Very good.
100%.
what we would end up doing is having a linear trail system. We would negotiate like a trail design standard. And every time we sell a piece of property, then you would have enforceability of what they have to do. If they want to develop that property, then they have to build that section of trail.
Great.
We want to control all of that for obvious reasons, so that we have the right outcome and the right amenity feature accordingly.
Very good.
And then where the sanitary line is along the waterfront, you know, that's elevated.
Yeah.
And that was all to accommodate the trail system on the waterfront being there through part of the frontage.
Very good. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for coming in. I hope you get this off the ground and that the bills.
Been here for 12 years, I haven't get up.
We'll bring it back to this committee as far as the referrals through the rezoning and development. So, yeah.
Good.
Just as an aside, I've also been asked to look at the 2 Mile site on behalf of ownership there.
Okay,
So
that'd be great.
I don't know why I get all the easy ones, but
Yeah, really.
Well, I got a couple more we could give you.
so I'm actually going to be stopping and taking some pictures on the way home. And
Well, thank you very much for your presentation and I don't want to use the "we're here to help" comment because that's, but
Here to offer advice.
yeah. As the planning committee, it's great for us to hear it. We can, there's 3 of us that were part of the OCP.
right,
So it's great to see that people are coming back and respectfully looking at what was the outcome of years worth of work.
you know, I think it's sort of a believability factor with Old Town Bay as well. Like, I think if one thing gets started, be more things that happen for the herd mentality of people. How much longer will you be in? Because I have these files I want to be able to give to you to transfer, so
Okay.
I don't mind.
I'm gonna have to, so we need 5 minutes. Just going to say thank you very much, Gary, for making the trip here. Items F, G, and H, they were just for information, correct? Or was there a discussion?
That was your opportunity to give feedback to staff, but we can push them back to the next meeting, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'd bring them back to the next meeting. We just were out of time. So having said that, if we have any comments that we want for the next meeting, then or things we'd like to talk about, send them in to Scott on the agenda for the next meeting. So I'd like to make a motion to adjourn. Okay, so we are adjourned at 2:57. The only chance you got. No.
And I think it's.
The only chance.
Okay, I guess if I find Wendy a check.